Starting just after midnight last night, Azerbaijan began a major attack against Armenia, shelling major towns including Goris, Artanish, Ishkhanasar, Jermuk, Kaban, Vartenis and Sotk, using high-caliber firearms, artillery and drones. Armenian Defense Ministry spokesperson Aram Torosyan stated that the Armenian side has suffered casualties but did not provide exact figures. I'm joined now by CivilNet analyst Tigran Grigoryan. So Tigran, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
What can you tell us about the situation? A lot of noise is being made about this attack, but this attack is different from previous attacks. You had been warning prior to this that some escalation was going to happen. The signs of an escalation were there. So how is this attack by Azerbaijan different from previous aggressive actions?
Well, yes, Azerbaijan hasn't been even trying to conceal its actions, so it has been obvious, at least last week, that Azerbaijan is getting ready for a major escalation. We've seen all these statements coming from the Ministry of Defense of Azerbaijan. We've seen the meeting that was held at the Ministry of Defense by DM Hasanov, where he urged his commanders to be ready for provocations coming from Armenia, as they worded it. Talking about the specifics of this attack, I think this is the most large-scale escalation we have witnessed since the end of the Second Karabakh War. The towns that have been targeted during this escalation, during the night and early in the morning, weren't even targeted during the Second Karabakh War. So it's a major attack. Azerbaijan targeted not just military infrastructure, but civilian infrastructure as well. Of course, we can later discuss the motives of this attack, but this is unprecedented, and if there is no proper international reaction to this, then this kind of escalation just can become a norm.
I mean, how do you assess the reaction of international actors so far? I mean, once again, many, including the EU Special Representative to the South Caucasus, Toivo Klar, Washington officials, other officials are calling on both sides to de-escalate. This is despite video surfacing of numerous Armenian towns being shelled. I haven't seen any evidence of any Azerbaijani towns or cities being shelled in this way. What do you think about this approach of these international actors? Some are using the term both-sidist or both-sidism.
Yeah, it is an obviously failed approach, and this neutral wording that has been used both by the EU, the US, and Russia hasn't even reacted by now. It's not effective. It is provoking Azerbaijan. It is enabling Azerbaijan to start new escalation, and we've been warning about that for months. For example, when several months ago Toivo Klar cherry-picked a quote from a hawkish speech by Ilham Aliyev saying, see, Azerbaijan is ready, is willing to sign some sort of comprehensive peace agreement. We were warning that this kind of behavior cannot deter Azerbaijan. It will only enable Azerbaijan. Hopefully, we are seeing the public part of the EU and US diplomacy, and hopefully during their private calls they are more straightforward and they are urging Azerbaijan to show some restraint.
Mm-hmm. And Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan stated that Armenia will apply to Russia, the CSTO military alliance, the UN Security Council for assistance. What role do you see that international pressure can take to deter Azerbaijan, which, as you mentioned, doesn't even seem particularly bothered with concealing its actions anymore?
To be honest, I don't have any hopes regarding the application process to the CSTO, or any hope that Russia would somehow assist Armenia. I think there is not a huge possibility that this procedure in the UN Security Council will be successful as well. We saw during the Second Karabakh War that the Security Council didn't even manage to adopt a statement. So even if a statement miraculously adopted, I'm pretty sure the wording will be pretty much the same, neutral, both sides. Sidism you were mentioning about, I have more hopes for bilateral diplomacy coming from the US, for example. I think the US is the actor which is capable of deterring and restraining Azerbaijani aggression.
So the situation in Karabakh, which is the actual disputed conflict zone, is purportedly relatively calm. Why is Azerbaijan attacking so deep into Armenian sovereign territory? What are the motives of this attack? Why is it attacking internationally recognized territory and not Karabakh?
Well, I believe because Azerbaijan can't afford to attack Armenia. As we all know, Russia is busy with the war in Ukraine, so is the West. So there is a certain type of power vacuum in our region. The role of international norms and international community has been decreasing for months now. So Aliyev understands perfectly all these developments. He's trying to use this window of opportunity that has been created by the war of Ukraine to coerce Armenia into signing some sort of agreement or a paper that would give Azerbaijan its maximalist demands. So there are a lot of reasons why Azerbaijan might be interested in attacking Armenia proper. For example, there's a lot of talk about the so-called Zangezur corridor, and we know that the negotiations about this process of opening of the regional communications hasn't been moving forward recently. There have been statements coming from the Prime Minister of Armenia that there are some differences on the issue. So that might be one of the reasons. The other reason, which is not directly connected to Armenia, but this narrative has been actively circulated in the Azerbaijani press, is the so-called disarmament of the Nagorno-Karabakh Defense Army. So the Azerbaijani side claims that there are still Armenian military presence in Nagorno-Karabakh, which is of course not the case, and probably trying to exert military pressure on Armenia. They are trying to exert military pressure on Armenia to force the Armenian sides, I don't know, to neutralize the defense army or try to get the military equipment of the defense army out of Nagorno-Karabakh. So there are multiple reasons. I don't think there is one single reason why they are doing this. They understand that this tactics of military pressure is quite effective, has been quite effective, and the Armenian government has its part of responsibility for that, because after every military escalation, Armenia is ready to make some concessions. We've been witnessing this process starting a year ago. Like, if you remember, when the Azerbaijani forces occupied Armenian territory in May 2021, there were statements from the Armenian government that we're not gonna negotiate with Azerbaijan on any issue until these troops leave the sovereign territory of Armenia. But after a month, all the negotiations started, so Azerbaijan is unpunished in this process. Azerbaijan sees that this policy is quite effective, and I think the Aliyev regime will pursue with this policy in the future as well.
I mean, you mentioned concessions. Finally, I just want to ask, this is happening just after Armenia made a major concession to Azerbaijan, and just after Azerbaijan committed a major violation of the ceasefire regime in Karabakh. Armenia handed over the areas of Berdzor, Arvno and Nerkin Sus, as well as the original route of the Lachin corridor, a major concession. And less than a month later, Azerbaijan is shelling Armenian towns. So Armenia is being attacked if it doesn't make concessions, or whether it does make concessions. So what is to be done?
Well, I don't think that the case of Arvno and Berdzor is a good example of that, because there was an agreement in principle that these settlements, these towns and villages would be conceded to Azerbaijan in a 3-year period. But of course, the August escalation accelerated this process. But as I've already mentioned, there are multiple examples of Azerbaijani escalations. Well, at least the government can be consistent in its official stance on the Nagorno-Karabakh issue and on all the other issues of the Armenian Azerbaijani context, because when you are changing your positions every month, it is very attractive for the opposite side to exert military pressure and try to change your position. Second of all, and probably not second of all, this is the most paramount issue. 1.5 years or nearly 2 years have passed since the Second Karabakh War, and no practical steps have been made to restore the military capabilities of the Armenian army. The Armenian government's delusion that the international community would somehow assist Armenia in protecting its sovereign territory has been a failure. As you remember, Nikol Pashinyan stated in his April the 13th speech that the international community urges us to lower the bar on the status issue of Nagorno-Karabakh, and after that there will be a broad consolidation around Armenia. So where is that consolidation? We're not seeing even straightforward statements coming from the international actors. Summing up, and my answer to your question, the Armenian government should be more consistent in its positions, and the Armenian government should start reforming the army and restoring its military capabilities, because the only solution to this situation is some sort of restoration of military balance in the region, because the imbalance that has been created as a result of the Second Karabakh war is the prime reason for all these escalations. Azerbaijan creates these escalations because it can.
Okay, well, Tigran, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
And continue following CivilNet for the latest updates on the situation.